The recall effort in California has failed. Governor Gavin Newsom will remain as the governor of California. And there's a lot of speculation as to what went wrong for the recall effort. Now, CNN is of the opinion that Gavin Newsom was going to be recalled until people saw that Larry Elder was the front runner. And then all of a sudden his polls shifted. And actually, I think that's not completely wrong. I don't blame Larry Elder for it. I blame the media and their lies. When the question was just, do you want to get rid of Newsom? Most people were like, yes, we want to get rid of Gavin Newsom. And then the media started saying, look who's leading in the polls and who would win. It's Larry Elder. And then, of course, you see all of these blue areas start panicking because Larry Elder's being smeared. And Joe Biden came out and said, if Newsom recalled, you get Donald Trump. That's what he said. Something like that. You know, I'm not going to clean up his stuttering and stammering, his inability to speak. Now, CNN says that there are 5 great takeaways from what happened. And interestingly, I think they're just plumb wrong. 2022 Newsom versus Elder, I really doubt it. The lessons are limited. No talk of fraud from Elder. That was the one that really was interesting to me, because there is something interesting about this race. And I think the fraud talk hurt the recall effort. Now, Mike Cernovich had been tweeting the other day that Donald Trump saying it's rigged was voter suppression. I completely agree. I don't know how powerful that message was, but we saw it over on the Tim Castaro podcast in the live chat. I see it. We talked about weird anomalies or people complaining about glitches and software errors. And people were commenting saying, what's the point? Why bother? Now, our message is very much, don't be demoralized by this. Why talk about it? 2 reasons. 1, it's newsworthy. I'm not going to hide the news simply because I'm worried it might demoralize somebody. But also, if the conversation is happening, let's be in the conversation and then provide a rallying cry. Get out there and vote. Now, I think there's a couple big reasons why the recall effort failed. First, well, I should say 3. We'll do 3. I think saying there was fraud and it was rigged, all that suppressed the vote. I think Larry Elder's own campaign inadvertently did this, and I'll show you the evidence from their own website claiming that they had already lost before the race was over. So people are going to be like, if they're saying they already lost, why bother coming out? Now, that part of the website, Stop CA Fraud, has been deleted already, but there's archives. They exist. And of course, he was called out for this. I don't know who did it. I'm not saying Larry Elder made it, but someone associated with his campaign, it appears. The next big issue is that Republicans did not turn out. Why? I don't know, but it seems like the amount of Republicans that came out, it's less than the amount of Republicans who voted for Donald Trump. I think that actually makes sense. You probably had a strong Republican presence, no joke, not strong enough. There may be a simple solution for this, a simple reason for this. And it may not be that Republicans didn't turn out. It may be that they left already. Yeah, maybe they're gone. After 2018, 2020, many Republicans in California probably said, we out. And they went to places like Texas. We saw Elon Musk and Joe Rogan. Joe's not a Republican, but you can see the sentiment against the Democrats. A lot of these anti-woke and anti-establishment individuals are bailing. They're jumping ship, in which case voter turnout would be down. Down by the millions? I'm not convinced. Yeah, so it's possible that there was around 4 million or so votes to recall, but there's a total of 6 million when it came to Donald Trump's election. So people did not turn out. You're not going to convince me that 2 million Republicans fled California already. I just don't see it. I think Republicans stayed home. Let's go through some of this news, though. CNN says California Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom delivered a decisive answer to the question of whether voters would penalize those who enacted strict policies aimed at slowing the COVID pandemic. They say the strict pandemic policy gets a big win. Yes, people in California like being beaten over the head, figuratively, with the big club. I remember that video of that woman in the valley in LA. I think she was in the San Fernando Valley. And she wanted to open her restaurant. She couldn't because of the statewide mandate. So she created an outdoor seating area, which was particularly expensive. And then was told she couldn't seat people outdoors either. And right next to her tented outdoor seating area was craft services for the movie industry. which were allowed to set up tents and tables to serve food. People want to live that way. They like it. And, I got to be honest. Who am I to tell them not to live that way? It's quite simple. If you live there and you don't like it, leave. Here's what many people are saying. Let me pull up Mr. Ben Shapiro. He says, the failure of the CA recall is a reminder to Republicans still in the state. The decline is now inexorable. Get out while the getting is good. And move to a purple or red state. Your life will radically improve. And I will actually add to this. If you're a conservative, Republican, disaffected, liberal, moderate, whatever, go to a purple state. Texas is okay. Texas is turning purple. Go to Texas. Help stave off the decline from these, leftists. Go to a swing state. Add and go to a district that's in question. Go to purple districts. Go to suburbs of big cities. Let me put it this way. Imagine we're in a great battle, a great war. Now, we're probably in a fourth or fifth generational civil war. Okay. Imagine that's the case. I think it is. Let's put it this way. You don't need the bigger army to win. You need strategic locations and resources to win. The U.S. government, our political system is set up in a way that there is room for minority rule, and it's a good thing. Take advantage of it. Imagine there's a great war, and, Alexander the Great is coming in and he says, they have 60%, 60% of the troops on the battlefield belong to the enemy and 30% belong to us. Let's charge in full speed. It's like, doesn't sound like a good idea. Now, there's strategy. Theoretically, you could win. But what if he said this? What if the great conqueror or the great warrior, general, whatever, said, we've got a battlefield where 60% of the forces on the field are enemy combatants, and we have only 30%. Our troops are not served well in this location. Over in this area, it's 50-50. Let's retreat from this battlefield where we know we can't hold ground, send those troops to bolster the forces in the split area, and then give the advantage to our forces. It's that simple. If you live in California, and you're a conservative, you move to a swing state. And I'll tell you this, if you're a liberal and you voted to no on the recall and you voted for Biden, all that stuff, stay. By all means. It's what you voted for. You got what you wanted. I don't see why you should be complaining. I mentioned this from time to time, that comic about Joe Rogan leaving California, and he's carrying, I think it was a Ben Garrison comic. He's carrying a briefcase that says liberal policies, and there's a Texan-looking cowboy guy, and he's like, hey, leave that where you got it. Now, Joe Rogan may not bring leftism to California, personally. He may bring a moderate view. Who knows who he votes for? But I'll tell you this, his staff are going to vote left. Most people commented how, Jamie, for instance, on his show is more left. When I went on the show the first time and we were talking about the okay hand gesture and these cops, I was like, they're playing the circle game. And he was like, no, that's a white supremacy hand gesture. And then Joe asked him, like, what's the circle game? And then Jamie was like, oh, well, the circle game is when you hold the okay sign under your waist, and if someone sees you, get to punch him. So you knew what it was. You knew the cops were doing it. That's the point. Joe Rogan has staff members. Joe Rogan is setting up infrastructure, and it's going to start attracting Hollywood leftists looking for jobs, and they're all flooding into Austin. So yes, Texas is a great battleground right now and could use support from some people who are going to push back on the Democratic establishment and say no to their crackpot policies. There's also other purple states too. Any one of these swing states, Florida, help hold Florida's ground is Ohio, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, man, I'll tell you this, that is a great state. Fantastic. You got the Pennsylvania Wilds. You got Pittsburgh. Fantastic. Philadelphia, good place. Philadelphia needs to turn red. It's Union Democrat City, 80-something%. And I saw these guys come out and protest the Christopher Columbus statue being torn down. Well, y'all need to step up and say no to the establishment, Republicans and Democrats. I'll tell you this. Don't vote for the neocons and the establishment Republicans. The only reason I would entertain voting for a Republican is if it's going to be a populist. That's it. Left populists are liars. I'd personally prefer a moderate left-leaning populist who is honest and really libertarian. I don't think they exist. You see AOC, and she's just the victor in the Hunger Games, flaunting around the capital city, all proud of herself for clawing her way out of the crab bucket. Anyway, let me show you something what we got in California. Should Governor Gavin Newsom be recalled? With 68% reporting, we can see 5.8 million no, he should not be recalled, and 3.29 yes, He should be recalled. Now, there is some good news here, but first, let me show you data from the 2020 election. Joe Biden with 11.1 million votes and Donald Trump with 6 million votes. 6 million votes for Donald Trump. And so far, they only got 3.2 million yes votes. If we're going to extrapolate and say with 68% reporting, we're looking at around 32% floating, add 1/3 to the total, and we're looking at 4.3 million yes votes, still way below the 6 million people who voted for Donald Trump. Now, we can break this down. Many people voted for Trump, probably don't pay attention. Let's be real. Uninitiated, but conservative. So they go out to vote in the election. They rubber stamp Donald Trump. They walk away. When it comes to the recall, they weren't anywhere to be found. Democrat ground game is good. Republicans are terrible. And let's be real. Even Republican voters don't like the Republican Party. I mean, I've shown you the polls over and over again. But yes, in aggregate, the Republican approval rating is in the gutter. Why? Well, how about this, for instance? Mark Milley has been exposed committing colloquial treason. I say colloquial because I'm not going to get into the legal requirements of constitutional treason. I'm saying the dude's a traitor. Mark Milley called China and warned them of U.S. military plans. Specifically, we are not intending on attacking you. What did that do? China said, okay, we good. Do what we want to do. Sink Vietnamese boats, go through the Strait of Taiwan, the South China Sea, and press on Taiwanese airspace and water territories. Go along Alaska. They're not going to attack us. And Mark Milley said, don't worry. If we do, I'll call you. Yeah, a lot of people are saying that's treason. Where are the Republicans? They're worthless. Absolutely worthless. Fortunately for us, we have Rand Paul. And for me, it's not about pro-life or tax or any of that stupid stuff. It's about whether we're going to have accountability. And while I can disagree with Rand Paul on a lot of issues, he's for freedom, and he calls it out where he calls it out. Rand Paul is probably, in my opinion, the best politician we got. Ron before him, Rand today. There's a handful of others that are pretty good. Thomas Massey's pretty awesome. And so that's what you get with the Republican Party. Mostly garbage. So what happens? Well, Republican voters don't come out. So we're down maybe, if we're just trying to make assumptions about the remaining 1/3 of voters who haven't been counted yet, we can say that we can increase the Republican numbers by about 1/3. Still, 1.7 million down. Is it possible 1.7 million conservative-leaning individuals left California? Yeah, but I don't think it's that high. I've looked at it before. I think it's, again, the hundreds of thousands, and all the people who left are not conservative. In fact, I think certain areas of California were actually growing anyway. It stands to reason. One of the reasons that the recall effort fails is because people didn't show up. Now, to be fair, as people pointed this out on Twitter, if we increase the 5.8 by 1/3, okay, so they would still have more votes in the long run. So even if every single Republican showed up, it probably still would not have succeeded. A lot of people are saying fraud. I'm going to stop that right now and tell you, no, that people want to believe fraud. I'll tell you this. You know what my conspiracy theory is? Not really. I'm being hyperbolic in this. I'm being facetious. It's a better way to put it. The real conspiracy is convincing conservatives the elections are rigged so they don't vote. There you go. What happens when people hear from Donald Trump it's rigged? They go, what's the point? And then they don't show up. I think that's demoralizing, and I think it's a problem. And now let's throw it to Mr. Larry Elder's website. Look, I'm a big fan. I think Larry Elder's fantastic. For me, I'm more about honesty, integrity, freedom. Those are like my principal issues. I am liberty across the board when it comes to my 6 moral foundations. Now, I do hold a decent balance of all of the moral foundations, something not typically found in liberals. But liberty is huge for me. And I think this is a unique combination. Typically, libertarians have one moral foundation, no joke, and it's liberty. Conservatives have an equal amount of all of them, and leftists, liberals, have just care and fairness. Check out Jonathan Haidt's research on moral foundations. It's fantastic stuff. For me, across the board, even amounts. Why? Well, I try to listen to people. I try to be rational and reasonable. Let me show you what's going on. From Larry Elder's website, Stop CA Fraud. It says, paid for by Larry Elder Ballot Measure Committee, recall Newsom. Committee major funding from Elder for governor. Now, I don't know exactly if this is Larry Elder's website, but it's associated with his campaign. It looks very much like his campaign website. The media has reported it. So I want to make sure I'm just, being clear. Here's what it says. stopcafraud.com/home. And what do we get? It just says no results found. The page you requested could not be found. Try refining your search or use the navigation above to locate the post. Well, that's strange. This is stopcafraud.com/home, and there's nothing here. Well, my friends, the internet is forever. Take a look at this from the Wayback Machine. We jump down. We go to September 14th at 17:08, and what do we get? We get this. Fight California election fraud. Now, I will say this. I checked this website days ago, long before this September 14th archive. And yes, this existed. And many people pointed out that, many news outlets pointed out, Larry Elder, before the election was even over, was petitioning people to claim there was fraud, citing something specific. Take a look at this. This is from stopcafraud.com, and the URL is /home. Fight election fraud. Did you experience fraud? It says they say that in America, there are 4 boxes of liberty: the soap box, the ballot box, the jury box, and the ammo box. When we vote, we exercise our rights as Californians to make our voices heard via the ballot box, having listened to others on the soap box. And then if that fails, we go to the jury box, and hopefully we never use the ammo box. I think it's the cartridge box, but, regardless. They say, as is the case, we implore you, our fellow citizens, to join us in this fight, as you are able, primarily by signing our petition demanding a special session of the California legislature to investigate and ameliorate the twisted results of this 2021 recall election of Governor Gavin Newsom. They say, voters who cast improperly formed ballots have an advantage over voters who cast their ballots in person, a violation of both Equal Protection Clause and the 14th Amendment. Okay. 2, instances of undocumented ballots have been discovered prior to the election date of September 14th. 3, if the recall election advances to an audit, we must not permit county officials who may or may not have contributed to these discrepancies to conduct the recount. 4, and here's the important part. Statistical analysis used to detect fraud in elections held in third world nations, such as Russia, Venezuela, and Iran, have detected fraud in California, resulting in Governor Gavin Newsom being reinstated as governor. The primary analytical tool used was Benford's law and can be readily reproduced. For these reasons, among many others, I, as one of constituents, voters, and here's the petition, blah, blah, blah. You get the point. Why did StopCAFraud.com put up a petition claiming they already used Benford's law when the results had not been published? That's a very specific thing to claim. For them to come out and say there was fraud, we saw it, there was a lot of reasons to believe there was fraud, and that you need to fill out this petition, that to me is a huge, huge red flag. Look, if they had a petition ready saying that in the event there is fraud, we demand an investigation, that's one thing. But they already had this ready. They already had citing Benford's law ready. How did you analyze the data before the data was published? This claim was actually up, I believe, on Monday. Many news outlets came out and called it out. Then the other day, it was actually removed from Larry Elder's website. There was something. So if you go to the website now, this is what you get. It says report election fraud in CA. If you've experienced something, then fill out this form claiming you experienced fraud. Up here at the top, it just says affidavit. In the archive, you can see there's petition. Why would they do that? Your guess is as good as mine, but I'm not going to play any games. If you're going to come out and claim there was fraud and you already lost before the election was already over, then expect people not to show up. It's plain and simple, isn't it? Why would someone show up if you publish on your site you lost already? In fact, how many people didn't realize the election wasn't even over? Mike Cernovich, as I mentioned, said, claiming it's rigged is voter suppression. Okay, well, what about this website, Stop CA Fraud? It claims to be funded by Larry Elder's campaign for the most part, and it looks very similar in format to Larry Elder's actual website. Let me point something out. Let me break it down for y'all. Over on Twitter, they say there is no evidence of widespread voter fraud in the California recall election, according to fact checkers. Claims of voter fraud in California's recall election, which takes place on September 14th, are unsubstantiated and baseless, according to the AP and PolitiFact. The California Secretary of State's office says there's no history of security concerns or investigations tied to the state's voting system's remote accessible vote by mail. They say California's remote accessible vote by mail helps voters with disabilities cast their ballots, allows voters to download and fill out a ballot after receiving approval from their county elections office. The ballot must then be returned in person or by mail and has the same safeguards as traditional voting methods, which is almost none. Let me point something out for you guys. A lot of people want to believe it's fraud. Defeatism. It's not fraud. It's ground game. Y'all got none. Look, sure, there's anomalies. There was a guy who was arrested, charged with forgery for having 300 recall ballots in his car. There is evidence of malintent, and this guy was charged for it. Let's investigate it. I'm on board with that. Now, herein lies the bigger problem. If you believe that it's rigged, people don't show up, and then you lose. Here's the reality. The large portion of victory Democrats earn in places like this is ground game. When they create download your ballot, I'll tell you what happens. Democrat activists go door to door, knock on the door. Howdy, ma'am. Did you vote no to recall Gavin Newsom? You didn't. Did you get your mail-in ballot? You did. Great. Fill it out. Say no on the recall. You don't want Donald Trump and MAGA here, do you? And the people say, okay, and they fill it out. Now, maybe there's ballot harvesting, but it's irrelevant. When voting is required in person, this ground game don't work. They show up and knock on the door and they say, did you vote yet? No. Are you going to vote? I'm not going anywhere. I'm watching. I got pizza and I'm watching the game. Now with mail-in voting, it's simple. They say, look, I got pizza. I'm watching the game. It's right there. Just fill it out. Okay, fine, whatever. Put it in your mailbox. The mailman will pick it up next time they come. And you have a month to do it. Now let's talk about downloadable ballots. Now they show up and they knock on the door. Did you vote no in the recall, good sir? No, I didn't. I don't care. Well, did you get your mail-in ballot? I didn't get anything. How about this? Download the form right now. You can apply. If you get approved, just let them know you're unable to travel for whatever reason. Then you can just download it and put it in your mailbox and you're good. And they'll go, okay, fine, whatever. Not everybody gets approved for this. Universal mail-in voting is more powerful, but that's the ground game. That's what ground game is. Republicans don't have it. That's why Republicans are not protesting, and the left is. So Act Blue, the Democrat fundraising platform, existed well before Win Red did. Republicans are late to the party. Sorry, that's reality. You know, Obama used social media to win, and it worked. And then Donald Trump did in 2016, and they got mad about it. So they started censoring people. They control the infrastructure. Republicans need to wake up. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.